You gotta have a podcast.
You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast. You gotta have a podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to You Gotta Have a Podcast. I'm Angela Palladino, and thanks to you for joining me here for season 2 that we are so humbly calling the season of the swerve. We're going to be talking to creatives of all kinds about big old swerves they took in their creative focus when they switched from one path to the other and why, and just about creativity in general. You know, a lot of left brain woo-woo shit. Today, I am joined by comedy writer and performer Jenny Arimoto. We talk about her transition from Silicon Valley to the New York City improv scene and how you can go from being a writer to being a sometimes performer to being a sometimes TikToker while always wanting to go back to your roots as a writer and what that means. And all these transitions, especially with the internet playing such a big role in our lives when stages and live performance cannot. It's a really wonderful conversation with a lovely human being. Here is my chat with Jenny Arimoto.
Once that outlet was taken away, which was at the time for me, live theater, both like improv and writing, sketch. I think once that was taken away from me and all I did was sit in my house and open my laptop and do tech work. I was like, I don't like this job really once you take away the free food at work and the massages and stuff. Not to brag, but that's what it was at Google. And then, and also I can't do any of the fun stuff I was doing. And so it was just like this thing where I was like, oh, I'm like not doing any creative stuff because I'm sad all the time because of the world and because it doesn't exist because theaters are closed down and we're in our apartments. And two, like, oh, now that I know that this is all I'm doing 40 hours a week, I actually don't really like it. And it's actually not fulfilling at all. So I think it was a combo of both. Real awakening for me.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to like sort of see that like forest through the trees when you have nothing else distracting you. I feel like, you know, the job was the same, but, you know, you always had your after work stuff to like look forward to. Right. And then all of a sudden, none of that's there. And you're like, oh, this actually ain't it.
Yeah. It was like a way for me to do the fun stuff. But then the fun stuff was taken away. And then I was like, what is this for anymore? It was basically like that.
For who, for why?
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Who, for why. Yeah. That's, I mean, honestly though, like sometimes you, especially if you can do it, just like pull the plug on that and then just see like kind of where that floats you. I feel like.
Totally. I don't know about you, but I was like raised very much in a mentality that was like, if I don't work, I'm going to die. Like it was very much that ingrained in me. So like since college, I've been working full time. And so I've like maintained that life. But then obviously I like discovered comedy. So then and obviously like any cult, you kind of like start and then you kind of ramp up and then your time and money and everything that you put into it just goes up and up and up and up. Yeah. But with work too, it's like, you put in the same amount, if not more hours as you get more senior in your role. So it was like this thing where I was like just increasingly getting stretched thinner and thinner. And then obviously this past year I had this like whole awakening about the world and capitalism and everything like that. And it was just like, oh, I'm kind of just like forcing myself to do both things. And it's not actually true. Like I don't have to necessarily work a 40-hour work week to survive. I mean, it helps, but I don't need it. I'm not going to die tomorrow if I like stop working at a tech company, you know? So it was like that awakening where I was like, oh, I can actually like take a break. I mean, it's okay to take a break. Like, I think it just felt not okay for my whole life.
I completely understand that. My family is very similar. It was just like, well, you have 2 working hands and 2 working legs. Like you should be doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But what if that thing wasn't, being like a marketing manager? Like what if it could be something else?
Totally. So it was really that awakening where I was like, oh, maybe I can just quit and not do something for a second and just try to do creative things for a little bit and see how that goes. And if that doesn't go well, then I can always go back to a full-time job.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, I can do it. I think it's just that I can.
Yeah. So like, I know like in the pandemic, you found like other outlets for some creative stuff, and you've like been doing a lot of TikTok stuff, especially. Did you just like kind of do it on a whim and started to blow up, or was it like intentional when you were like, I'm going to try to win TikTok?
No, definitely not intentional. I think that because I started kind of late, like when the pandemic hit, I felt like a lot of people started doing online stuff, which made sense.
Yeah.
Because what else are we doing? We're like sitting at home.
It's all we have.
It's all we have. Let me have this one thing. But at the time, like when everyone else was doing it, I didn't feel funny. Like I really didn't feel funny all of 2020. I think a lot of people probably feel the same way, where I was like, I just don't feel creative. I don't feel like I can output anything right now. And then the beginning of this year, I took a leave. So I was kind of dipping my toes into quitting my job. And I was just so burnt out. And so then I wasn't working, and I started thinking, and I always loved making little like shorts, like online stuff, just like for friends and things. And so then I was thinking, okay, well, what if I just start doing things for fun if I have an idea, and I'll just put it on TikTok. That seems to be where things are headed. And so I just started kind of on a whim making things very quickly. Just if I had an idea, I like wouldn't script it out or anything. I just was like, okay, I'll just do it. And then one specific one got traction. And I like suddenly got people following me, and I was like, oh, now I have an audience. And then I was like, oh, what if I just start actually using this as like a way to do sketch comedy?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of like increasingly became what it is now, which is like, oh, I'm just going to write things and make them, and I'll put them out if I think they're funny. And basically all these old sketch ideas I had in my notebook, I was like, I could just do this in a video format. Interesting.
It's great.
And like 1 minute, I can't do a full, 5-page thing, but I could do like a really quick, like snappy thing that can be shared. Yeah. That's kind of how that started. I had no intention behind it. I guess had time and was starting to feel a little bit funny again.
Yeah. I mean, did you find that like having that outlet like made you like feel a little bit more funnier as you started to do more? Or like, have you, like, I personally, all of 2020 have been just like kind of bogged down, and just like, I know that I'm funny. I know that like when I can like have conversations and like make people laugh, but like the actual like sitting down and like making of like writing a joke has just been like such a like mountain, I feel.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's like work begets work, right? Like once you get on a roll, it gets easier. Have you found that, or is it still like kind of like, go back and forth on that?
I definitely go back and forth. I think especially with the nature of online comedy, and now that it's attached to my face, which that was not my intention. Like I'm not trying to become an actor. And so there's like a whole host of, I don't know, personal things I have to work through when it comes to like internet, quote unquote, like fame. But I do think that when I was initially starting making these videos, it absolutely encouraged me to do the next one. Like it did kind of feel easier as I did it, because I was like, oh, now I kind of get like the format, and I understand like what beats I need to hit or whatever. Like it just felt like I was figuring it out. And obviously with this stuff, I want to say I'm doing it for myself, but obviously getting attention is like nice. It's like a nice little external validation. And so increasingly as I like got more positive feedback, I was like, well, I can do this and it'll be seen by people, not just like my 20 of my friends, which is great too. But it's like, oh, I'm like working for something. And so I do think it like helped give me something to work towards. If anything, I mean, really beginning of 2021, it was so unsure. Like we don't know when vaccines are really going to be distributed. I was like, I don't know if we'll have live theater in the summer. Like I didn't know when I would be able to do anything again. And it had been like a year since I've been done anything. So it really felt like this place where I could just let something out. Yeah. Just do something.
The validation is real. I mean, it's the difference between doing an open mic and doing like a packed show,
right?
You know, or like doing a show for just like five other, like the other team of improvisers,
exactly,
and then, like doing an actual like sold out show,
exactly.
It makes a big difference.
Totally. I mean, all comedians just want a little bit of validation. It's like, do you think that was good? Did you like it? Do you like me? Do you think I'm funny?
Have you done any live stuff since like the vaccine and like things like opening up again? I haven't, but have you?
I have. I've done some improv shows, and to be honest, I know this podcast or this season is about swerving, and I will say coming back to live theater post a year and plus of no live theater, I think I'm for myself learning that I don't need to do live theater. I love live. Like I love seeing it. I love seeing a great show, both stand up and like an amazing improv show. There's like nothing better, you know? Yeah. But I'm like increasingly finding that I don't need to do it. I think I'm more of a writer, and I think that has been my learning coming back for sure. Yeah. That's interesting. I've kind of felt the same way. I also think that, at least because I'm not a stand-up comedian, I'm like, as an improviser, it's like the theaters a lot of theaters are gone. Like spaces to do it where we were doing it are just not there anymore. And so the spaces where we are doing it are different. They're not necessarily built for improv, which is fine. Like, you know, improv is such a specific art form. So it just feels like coming back to it, it's not the same. I also think that it's like stand-up is great because you get to write it. You can work on it. Like, and improv, it's like none of us have been practicing and rehearsing. Yeah. And it's just like the muscle has, for me, just gone. It's like left my body. And so I do think it feels very weird. Like it feels just different. Yeah. And I think I have all my memories of improv that are like shiny and wonderful and warm. And it just doesn't feel the same. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is just a sign. It's not for me. That's okay. Yeah. Also, like, you know, people change. Totally. You know, I used to be really into the band Yellow Card, and I'm not anymore. Yeah. And that doesn't mean interesting, because I love it. I love them still. I have a Yellow Card tattoo. Do you know that? No. It's so embarrassing. I should be arrested. It's embarrassing. At the time, it's highly embarrassing. Not to completely harp on this, but at the time was... Because I only know Yellow Card. It's like hits. Yeah. Like at the time, did you think that Yellow Card was going to be like a band that really stood the test of time? Like you're like, this is going to make sense. An electric violin. What is there not to love? Like I get it, because you're just like, yeah, this will stand the test. Like these lyrics mean something to me, and it's never going to be embarrassing that it's Yellow Card. Yeah, I get it. I also was like 18, so, you know. Yeah, I mean, I did not doubt that you were in your teens when this happened. Oh, yeah, but the good thing at least is you would never know it just by looking at it. I have to tell you the story. It's not like I have the Yellow Card like logo or something. Exactly. I truly would never know. But I actually do have a Blink-182 logo on my ass. Just kidding, I don't. Yeah, but they have stood the test of time. That's true. Yeah, man. It's just so funny how like perspectives change, and like what is fulfilling to you for certain points is maybe not so. And it's not that like you don't still appreciate the art form, right? Of Yellow Card or improv. But it is like, you know, maybe that's just not scratching the itch that it once did. Totally. Do you know what's interesting? I feel like a lot of people, especially moving to New York, they start doing like improv or whatever, stand up younger. Yeah. Like young. And they like kind of age out of comedy. Like they're just like, oh, actually, like that was just like a moment in time, and they like figure out what they want to do next. And what I think is so fascinating is I've always loved comedy, like growing up, but I was very shy, and I just didn't think that was something I could do. And so what I think is fascinating is I like discovered it in my mid-20s, really like improv. And like since then increasingly have started doing more. And as I get older, it's like a journey of me admitting to myself that I want to do comedy.
Yeah.
And so I like feel like I'm on an opposite track than a lot of other people who like are like, oh, well, that was like fun and whatever. But I'm realizing there's more to life. And I'm just like the other side, which is like increasingly being like, I just want to make dumb, funny things like as I get older, which I think is so interesting.
I completely relate to that. I also started when I was like in my mid 20s. I didn't move to New York till I was 25. And then it was like accepting that it's okay to like kind of try something different than maybe like what everyone expects from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was in San Francisco, so comedy really barely existed in a way. I mean, like it exists, but it's in a way where it's like it's not really central to that city. And so I similarly graduated, and my parents obviously were like, you're an adult now, like you're working to eventually buy a home and have a family. You know, like that's like what was in my head. Yeah. At 22, I was like, I need to save for retirement. Yeah. And that's what happiness is. And so it was just like for the first couple of years after college, it was like, I'm working. I'm a lady who's an entrepreneur and working in tech, like just trying to get ahead. And it was one of those things where like it took a couple of years for me to be like, hey, I've always wanted to try. Yeah. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, why am I not trying? If anything, I'll make friends through it. Yeah. But I need to try. And that's like literally how it started. But it like didn't even sink in that that's a thing I could do. Yeah. 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 It is funny. I had like a coming out conversation with my mom when I decided to like start doing comedy, where I was like, listen, I've always been interested in this. And I'm just like realizing now that like, it's really something that I need to pursue to be true to myself. And my mom was like, okay. Well, did your mom like know what even like that means? Cause like my parents have no idea. When I start taking improv classes, they're like, we don't know what any of those words mean. We like the word classes. Yeah. Like that's school good. But then otherwise they're like, we don't know what improv is. Yeah. We don't know what you're talking about. I think my mom did a little bit because I did improv in high school. We had an after school club that was an improv club. Wow. And so I did it for like 2 years when I was like 14 years old, and it was like short form. So I think she kind of knew. Also, like I also was going into like filmmaking at the same time. And my whole goal was to be like, I want to make comedy, films, and television. And so I kind of just explained it that way, and less about like improv, although that was like where I first really started just doing sketch and improv on like full-time cult level for like a few years. And then that like wore off. Then I started doing stand-up. And then now that's the pandemic kind of like nipped that. Just like, man, no podcast. I don't. It's like the beautiful, the evolution, like the little like the chart of the evolution of the guys, like become, like of the caveman to human. It's like that. It's like improv to sketch to stand to podcast. But yeah. I mean, how did like, have your parents ever come and seen you are they in San Francisco still? They're in San Francisco. So when I was in San Francisco, I was like on a Herald team there. Oh, cool. And I will say like the word Herald team has a very different weight in San Francisco than it does here or like LA. But I was like on a team there, and then basically halfway through the season, I was like, I'm moving to New York. This is later. Yeah. So, but my last show in San Francisco, I basically, or maybe it was my second to last show, I told my parents, I'm like, are you really not going to come see me perform before I leave? Because like, I don't know if at this rate, you might never see me perform. I basically guilted them into coming. And so they did come to one of my last shows in San Francisco, and they were 100% confused. Like they're watching and they're like, we don't know what this is. Like, we don't understand why, like, you do a thing and then you leave and you come back. Like, they couldn't get it. Like, they're like, I don't know what a second beat is. Like, whatever. And I was like, fair enough. Sure. But then when I got on to Lloyd Night at UCB here, I guilted them again. And I was like, guys, I made onto a UCB team. Like, who knows if I might get cut soon? I don't know. And so they actually flew out with the purpose of like partially seeing me perform, mostly because they wanted to see a lot of Broadway musicals, but they kind of like slipped it in there. And so they did actually see me perform both in San Francisco and
that's fun.
Here. Once again, they're like, I don't
get it.
What's going on. It seems like you're at a slightly bigger theater with more people. That's great. But otherwise, I don't know what this is, but you look like you're having fun. It was like one of those.
That's nice. It sounds like blissfully blindly supporting, just like, this is nice, good for you. We have no idea
Absolutely.
What it is.
Yeah, like everything I've ever done that's comedy related, and they see it, they're like, that's nice, like that's good for you. And then every time they go like, maybe don't quit your job. And so really this summer was kind of like the last straw that was like, okay, she's quitting her job.
Yeah. It's there, you know what? There will always be jobs, especially, you know, in the tech world. Like, listen, I feel like that's the appease to the parents. Like, listen, if this crashes and burns, I'll just go back in a year. It's fine.
Exactly. I think they also understand that now. They're like, we get it. Like, do what you need to do, but you can always go back.
Also, like, it's the end of the world. This is the time to do it.
Truly, that I didn't realize how much it had sunk in for them too, because they're like, after 2020, and I was like, whoa, 2020 was really like a year where we all changed. Yeah. If my Asian parents are like, if you need to quit your job to be happy, fine. And I was like, okay, 2020 really did a number on all of us.
Seriously. So like, we're all going through a collective, just like mental breakdown.
Totally. I'm like, wow,
it's so fun though. I saw that you had that. Was that your parents that you guys did a dance video together for the Be Gone dance?
Yes.
That's so cute.
Yes. It was very cute. My dad was like, asked my sister when I was not home behind my back. He was like, can you show me Jenny's TikToks? Because he like kind of heard here and there that like I'm getting a little bit of traction.
Yeah.
And so my sister showed it to him and he was like, apparently he was like, I don't get it. Like classic, like my parents were like, we don't get it. And also classic, my parents, they were like, I think each video is too long, which to me is insane because every video is truly 59 seconds long. And so they literally had like immediately like criticism, which was like, yeah, make it a little shorter, make it a little faster, make it a little shorter. But then I came back and my dad's like, can I be in one? And I was like, do you want to be in one? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, do you want me to write something for you and you have to memorize lines? And he was like, sure. Of course, the second I start actually talking about how he has to act, he was like, never mind. Like, it's one of those things where he like promises too much.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how about if we did a dance video?
Yeah.
He's like, easy peasy.
Yeah.
And so then I showed him a couple dance videos and then I was like, do it. Like, can you just show me how you would do it? And then he's like, actually, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. So he like backed out. And then I was like, how about we do a video where I just try to teach you a dance? 5 minutes max.
Yeah.
That's it. And he's like, I will give you 5 minutes. And that's the video that we ended up with.
Hey, it worked out really well.
It did. It was very sweet. It was just, I thought it was funny that he was even willing to do it. Honestly.
It sounds like your dad wants to be a TikTok influencer.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of him is like, whatever it'll take to help Jenny out, I'll do it. Like,
I will lay down my pride.
Yeah. If this will help her become a comedian, then I'll do it.
That's so sweet. Oh man. I have this like theory though, that like one day you're just going to be on the For You page and you're going to stumble across your dad's own TikTok account where he has like 3.8 million followers.
Yeah. And it's just like him just like not understanding how anything is. Yeah. It's like the camera.
But all the videos are like tight, 30 seconds fast.
So good. Yeah. Really good editing. Really well done, like highly produced.
Just basically the avatar of TikToks.
Yeah. Wow, I would love that.
That's so fun. So you did like sketch live too, like you did Mod Night, right?
Yeah, but I was a writer. I'm not an actor.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Like, I really think that ultimately that was when I moved to New York, I was like, I want to write a sketch. But before I moved, I wrote a musical in San Francisco,
really?
Like a comedy musical.
Yeah. That's fun.
And that was like truly my first script I'd ever written, which is a little bit cuckoo bananas that I wrote, like co-wrote a 75-minute musical as my first writing project. Like I didn't know how scripts were formatted. And I also didn't know there were script writing like softwares that you can use that are not that expensive. And so we wrote it in a Google Doc. We like manually formatted the script because like that's how much I didn't know.
Yeah. The first script I wrote a feature film and I did the same exact thing. I wrote it in Word.
Oh my.
And then like
God.
I later, like 2 years later, typed it into like Final Draft.
I think back on the amount of times I was just like
all the tabs.
spacing things out. Yeah. Crazy. But that was like my first introduction to writing. And I was just like, whoa, I love it. I want to write stuff. And I was like, I love sketch comedy. I was like, I want to like take writing courses, which they exist, but there aren't a lot of them in San Francisco.
Right.
And then I like moved out to New York, and then I found out about UCB and Mon Night, because I obviously knew about Herald Night, but not Mon Night. And I was like, my goal is to get on Mon Night.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got on Mon Night. I was only on it for like 6 months total, but it was like, truly, I was like, it was so much work.
Yeah.
So much work. But I was like, oh, this is what I like doing.
Yeah.
I like writing, and I like not having to memorize lines and act. I like that I can just give it to people who can do that better than me. And then I'm like, you got this.
And writing it's a shit ton of work to be a sketch writer.
It's so much work.
Yeah. I did Boogie for 3 years, and I was an actor, but I applied as both. And then they were like, you can't do both, but you can pick. We'll take you for either one. And then I like thought long and hard about it. And I was like, I just don't know if I have the time to go to all these writers' meetings.
Yeah.
So
it's double the meetings.
It really is.
It's like, yeah, writers have to, most times, depending on the team, like actors will go to all of them, but it's not required.
Yeah.
Whereas like writers have to be at like all the writing meetings, obviously.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I realize is when you're a writer also, and you're not acting, you really get none of the glory. And so then after the show, you get
your name on a little slide on the projector.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you know that I really like it. If I'm like, that's where I belong, I'm like, well, yeah, like you get none of the glory. You have to like work extra hard.
Pacing backstage, listening for the laughs.
Well, literally, I'm just like, you're just like, oh my God, please laugh. Like that's all you're doing. Please. But yeah, I loved it.
Were you really into like musicals or in high school? Were you really into like SNL in high school, like growing up? Like, how did you like kind of get the impetus to want to do like comedy writing?
Yeah, I grew up watching sketch comedy, but it was specifically Japanese sketch comedy.
Okay.
Because like in Japan, there's a lot of sketch comedy. Like boy bands have shows, like pop groups have shows. And then there was this one really famous boy band, like number one boy band in like the 90s. And they have a half sketch show, half cooking show, like a cooking competition show where they cook.
They're musicians, but they have a comedy show and a cooking show.
Yeah. And honestly, when I say musicians, it's like musicians very last. Like if anything, they're like entertainers first. They're not good at singing or dancing. You know what I mean? But they were fantastic sketch actors. And so I would like watch a ton of Japanese sketch comedy with my parents. And then that transitioned to like American sketch comedy, where I was watching like all that. Yeah. And then that changed to Mad TV. And then I graduated to SNL. It was like I was watching all of those. And so I love sketch comedy. Like it's just so strange to like love it this much. But I'm like, sketch comedy is like the mode that I love, like the format that I love. And so, I like grew up liking it. I didn't realize that not everyone was obsessed with sketch comedy in the way I was. Like this was all a learning thing for me when I was like, oh, you don't think about SNL constantly? Interesting. Yeah. So then I like obviously had no idea. I went to UC Berkeley, so there's like not a huge comedy scene. Yeah, the other UCB, the one that's a lot less fun. And so I like truly, if I had gone to a school where that existed, I would have done it in college. But like there really isn't much of a comedy scene, so it really took till UCB for me to like actually be able to do what I wanted to do.
I'm surprised a school as big as UC Berkeley doesn't have like at least one sad improv team or something.
Oh, they definitely have an improv team.
Oh, okay. They didn't have
but
sketch.
They don't have like sketch. Yeah. Because I was really shy, so I didn't want to. Also, you just audition.
Yeah.
Like there's
no classes. Like, you just show up.
No.
And then someone who's like a senior teaches you how to do a Herald.
Exactly. And I was like, I didn't want to audition because I was like, I truly don't know, other than yes and, I don't know anything about improv. So I was like, I'm not going to audition. I'm going to get cut. Yeah. And so then I didn't audition, and then I would have absolutely applied for like a writing position, but there was like no writing thing. Yeah. And so then I was like, well, I guess I'll wait till my late 20s.
That's enough of that for now. I'm going to wait another 8 years.
Exactly. So that was my journey to sketch comedy.
So where you were did you start doing sketch then in San Francisco or not till you really got to New York?
Yeah, it was really till UCB.
Yeah.
But like I wrote a musical before I wrote a sketch.
Right. So,
yeah.
So how did you like even think to write a musical then?
So my friend Pat like wrote a musical and got funding for it.
Oh, wow.
The year before. So there was like because it was like a San Francisco, like making fun of tech culture kind of thing.
Cool.
And then the year following, he didn't want to write it. So he was like, opened it to like people applying for writer positions. And so then my friend convinced me to apply with him. And so we like wrote like a submission together. Once again, not having written anything before, we like wrote it in a Google Doc, like a 2-page thing, and then sent it off. And we got it. And so it was me, him, and then Sarah Cooper, famously. Sarah Cooper, TikTok star / Netflix star / like author. So it's like the three of us who co-wrote it. And so it wasn't like it wasn't like my idea to write a musical. It was just like I applied to write for a musical.
Right. Okay. And so it wasn't like one day you were like, I'm gonna write a musical. And then just hit the ground running.
No, but I do love musicals. So it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
I was like, I grew up loving musicals. So it was just fun to do.
Yeah, that's really fun. Have you seen, not to get like fully off topic, but have you seen Doug Wydick and Ken McGraw's Toxic Masculinity musical?
No, but I remember when it was running and I was like, I have to go. And I just like, that was a time when I didn't want to go to UCB anymore or like the theaters anymore. Cause I was like, I'm in a theater all the time. Yeah. So like nights when I don't have to do something, I would like to just like sit outside and enjoy sunlight. But no, I missed it. Yeah,
it was really good. I talked to Doug last season for this podcast and he was just like telling me their whole process of writing it. And I was like, that sounds insane. Yeah. All the songs plus the whole story. There's a lot to do.
Yeah. There is so much to do. I worked on and I didn't even write the music. We would kind of outline what we want to accomplish and like what tone we want. But then we had like a person who like actually knows music, like composed the music and like the lyrics. And then we would like work through the lyrics. But like, it is so much work to write a musical because it's just so many parts. And then you have a choreographer come. It's just like so many pieces to it.
Yeah, that's huge.
That was quite a learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a good like first kind of peek into like that world of, I mean, then when you get to sketch comedy, especially live sketch comedy, turning around a 30-minute show in 3 weeks is not quite on that level, but it is kind of a lot. Like you get used to it, but when you really think about it, it's like, we like put out a 30-minute show every couple of weeks. Yeah. I guess there's a big group effort. It's a lot though.
I mean, you need everyone to do it. Like you're like, we need everyone to pull their weight. It's like an agreement. Like we're all going to do the thing we said we're going to do.
Y'all got to show up. You got to know your lines. You know? Yeah,
exactly. Like you have to someone has to go get the props that you need. You know,
someone's got to make
the directors.
Someone's got to print.
Everyone's got to print, which like at that point was me because I had an office. So I was like, I'll do it. It is a lot of work. Like, I think about this all the time. What my schedule, and I'm sure what your schedule was pre-pandemic, was probably cuckoo bananas. Like if I look at my Google Calendar at the time, it was just like every night, like something, some rehearsal, some meeting. And I think about like how I was also, probably pumping out like 3 completed sketches per month. Like that's a lot. Like to be pumping out like regularly, like editing, rewriting, whatever, and like having like 3 sketches that you're like, I'm pretty proud of these 3. We'll stage one of them. And then at the same time, I was like performing, doing improv and like rehearsing for that too, and working full time. And then also just trying to like work out and have like a life, Yeah. I don't know how I was doing it. Like, I truly don't know how I was doing it. I think I couldn't do it now.
I think about this a lot because it's truly like I would have maybe one night off a week, maybe, but like my entire like life as a human outside of work and comedy was literally from like the 1 or 2 hours after rehearsal or after a show where I would allow myself to like go get a drink with people. Like my whole life was lived between like 10 p.m. and midnight.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, what?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even give myself the one drink because I was like, I have to go home so I can sleep, so I can work out in the morning before work.
Jesus.
Because that's something I have to do.
Yeah.
You know, like in my head. I didn't have to, but I was just like, well, Jenny, you got to be like, you know, an adult and do your run class or whatever.
It is crazy. Like when I think about too, like now that I'm doing a lot less, I still am doing like a decent amount of stuff when I actually think about it in relation to like how much some people spend on their outside of work activities, whether it's comedy or whatever, like they're outside of their 9 to 5. I still do a ton of stuff. But like having a life wise, especially hanging out with friends, I have to try so much harder now to like schedule plans, because before it was always just like, oh, well, I see these people 4 times a week at shows, rehearsals, whatever. And it's like, oh, now I have to actually like be like, oh guys, do you want to hang out?
Totally. Yeah. It's like more, you have to just be so much more intentional with everything now.
Yeah.
It just isn't structured in the way it was. Like literally everything, socializing, being creative, like everything just feels like I have to be very intentional. Whereas before it was like almost passively happening to me.
Yeah.
It's like the show is set. You have to do it. It's like that. Or like you have a show, so you're going to see all your friends, or you have rehearsals, so you're going to see all your friends. And so you get to just hang out afterwards. And that just like doesn't exist. So like, I feel like everything now, you just have to do it and set it up yourself, or else it won't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like, it's been an adjustment. I mean, the whole last 2 years have just been collectively a major adjustment for the whole world.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to like think about how like, especially that, do you find like, do you work well, like kind of solo writing, or like you more of like a group, like writer's table tossing idea around person?
Yeah, I work better in a group. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I'm a little bit struggling right now creatively, because I think I'm missing that. Like I loved Mod because you write alone, but you have to come back and then we all get to like riff on it. And so it's like nice to like do your own thing, come back, and then we all get to like read it together and then be like, I like this thing. Here's like an idea, blah, blah, blah. Like I miss the writer's room in that way. It's because I think that's the fun part. Like I firmly believe the action of writing, like typing alone on your computer, no one likes that process really. Yeah. What's fun is like the output and like what you build together, or like the joking around when you're sitting in a room together. And I really, really miss that. And I like,
me too.
Really wish I had a writing partner. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have one. And so like, it'd be nice to have just someone else to like riff with. Cause I think that's the fun part of comedy, building a thing together.
I completely agree. And I used to kind of like beat myself up a little bit about not being someone who can just be like, I'm going to sit down alone and come up with 3 sketch ideas and write 3 sketches. It's like, no, like I can do the writing of like a first pass on my own, but it's like, I really would love to just sort of like brainstorm ideas with people. Yeah. I always used to beat myself up for not being like a sort of solo worker like that. And then I listened to, so Tina Fey was on a podcast. She was just straight up like, she literally kept saying, she's like, I don't work a single. She's like, I have to have a writing partner. Like people think that I'm a genius. I'm not. I need a writing partner. Yeah. And I was like, I respect that so much. And she also said in that, she was like, writing isn't fun. The fun of writing is after you're done.
Yes.
Great.
I firmly believe in that. Like, I say that I like writing, but I don't like writing. I like building the thing and then seeing the output at the end. Like I like putting together. The fun thing is seeing it at the end where you're like, this is great. Like the acting's great, whatever. I think that act of writing, especially writing alone, is not fun.
Yeah. It's a drudgery.
It's such a drudgery.
Every once in a while, like, I guess sometimes there have been moments, I'll admit, maybe this is like a little bit of hubris where I'm like working on something and I'm just like, this is so fucking good. It's like, and that's fun. I'm like, wow, I'm fucking crushing it. And then you read it back like a week later and you're like, oh, this is garbage.
I mean, I will say every first draft is like, you're writing it and you're like, okay, I think this could maybe be a thing. Like it's pretty good. And then you hear it right out loud and then you're like, it's a first draft. Yeah. Don't judge me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I want to find a writing partner. So if anyone's out there, let me know.
Oh my God. We should make a Tinder for writing partners.
I truly would love that.
Actually, that would be wild. Just like you're swiping and it's like people's like reels or like
they're like social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that I was going to say like this Tinder would have like 20 people on it. It's like so small. Like no one's
like
on, no one else is on it. Yeah, it's really
it's just
sad.
like all people we already know.
Yeah.
It is like, I really have been like, I definitely missing that collaborative sort of like community-based work thing during pandemic. And I guess like, you know, there are ways to make it work, but it's definitely been an adjustment for me. It's made me kind of sad.
It is sad. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, I think a lot of us were trying to do like Zoom things where we're like, kind of like meet up and read. But it's like when you're not really working towards something, whereas before we were like collectively working towards one show or whatever it is. And then it just became like, we're kind of doing it to feel something because the world is shut down and we're just like, we can't physically be in a room together. It did feel just like it just felt like we weren't working towards anything. The joy just like was gone. And I mean, obviously 2020 was hard. And so I really do miss like those innocent days when you're just kind of like collaborating and like building a thing and like actually putting it on by the end of the month.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah. I actually like haven't really noticed until this conversation just how like there's not really a ton of like live sketch in the city right now either. There's like a little bit.
Yeah, there's a tiny bit. I do think that just like in general, live theater is just having its kind of like
weird
moment where people are figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like it feels very like everything is indie scene right now. Does that make sense? I'm saying like, I'm not saying, I mean, quality, everyone's doing shows. It's wonderful, but it feels like everyone's relearning how to do it.
Yeah.
Including, and also obviously with all the variants and whatever, like it's just
Who knows
weird.
What's going to happen? Yeah,
exactly. And so it does feel just like this weird transition period where we're definitely not back. And we're also just being like, is this going to work again?
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember
like,
if this will
what's
work.
even funny anymore?
Yeah. And so it does. And I do think people are just moving online because that is where the eyeballs are. And so things are just shifting.
It is. You know what is funny to me? Like if I were to do a show 2 years ago and there were 50 people there, I would be like psyched. I would like, oh, this is going to be awesome. There are 50 people, like not like 50 people is a lot of people.
Right.
But like if I were to like spend the time, and I would arguably spend just as much, if not less time preparing for the live show for 50 people. But if I were to like, or if not more time preparing for the live show, but if I were to make a video, like a sketch video and put it on YouTube and it only gets 50 views, I'm fucking pissed.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, it's the same amount of people.
Yeah.
I wonder, I don't know where I'm trying to go with this. Maybe there's some weird like mental, maybe it's because you know that the theater can only fit like, 100 people or something. So it's half full versus like the internet could be potentially the entire world.
Right. But I will say, so I think like before pandemic, I would have loved doing a show for 50 people, right? Like I was actively doing shows for like 100, whatever people a month. And like I would do it and then it would go on YouTube and at best it'll get 300 views. Yeah. And probably 50 of those are my family. You know what I mean? And I was fine with that. I loved it. And like it felt so good to be in the theater. And I think then the pandemic hit and now it feels like, well, then I did internet stuff and I suddenly am getting hundreds of thousands of views on some things. Yeah. And it arguably takes less effort because it's just me. Not that I need to be the one acting in it, but in the pandemic, I was the only actor I could hire that's in my pod. And like, I think that like now it just seems like effort and reward has switched in my head where I'm like, oh, instead of putting all this effort into doing a show for arguably 50 people because theaters are just smaller right now and like more, the capacity is more limited. I rather put that effort into doing an internet sketch thing. Yeah. That could possibly get thousands of people looking at it. Yeah. That's like, that switch has happened in my head. It's like effort reward has switched.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that, do you find it like, even though it's switched, is it fulfilling in a different way or the same way?
No, it's very different. It's very, very different. Like, I mean, the feeling of being in a theater, a packed theater, and getting a laugh, there's like, it's like, a drug. It really is a drug. You're just like put it direct in my veins.
Yeah.
Like I like could live off of that.
Yeah.
But it's hard now. It's just not the same theaters. And it's once again, like I'm out of practice. And so I'm just not getting the laughs. And so I do miss that feeling, but it's maybe just because I'm not getting it in the performances I'm doing now. But online, it's very different. It's like, it obviously doesn't feel immediate in the same way. It doesn't feel intimate in the same way. But the cool thing is when something resonates so much with people, they like strangers from like random parts of the country reach out. They're like, I love this thing, you know? And I'm like, that's also cool. Like I never got to do that.
Yeah, that's true. You're getting like feedback from like across the world. Right. The
difference is when it's negative, they also say it. At a live show, no one would be like, boo, put your sketch away like during a show. And then, like the show ends, no one's going to come up to me like, I know you're the writer and I didn't like that. But like online, they're like, this is boring. Like I get that feedback too. So it is very different.
I saw, this was just like some meme or something on Twitter today, but it was like someone commenting on a boxer's tweet. This guy was like, you're the worst boxer of all time. You should just retire. And then the boxer replied and was like, oh yeah, you want to come say that to my face? I'll fucking kick your ass. And then the guy replied, I know you would. That's why I'm saying it to you on Twitter. Which is like that thing of like, yeah, people like there's like, sometimes you can see like beautiful parts of humanity in the comment section, but a lot of the time it's like, oh yeah, just the way that no one would like throw a pie in your face if you had a bad sketch at a live show. They are absolutely throwing a pie in your TikTok comments.
Oh yeah, always. And that's when I'm like, that's right. That's what the internet is.
Yes. Like, oh right, this place is trash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, once I get criticized, I'm like, this place is trash.
It's only good when I say it's good.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't love me, this place is trash.
Man, that must be, I know that I get a little bit scared just on my own. Like, I don't have like a big following on any social media, like max like 2,000 people, on any given like platform. But like, I once had a tweet go viral one time and it made me so scared. Like I was terrified the whole time. Do you freak out when you have one like really pop off? Cause I would.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I've been really struggling with this since things have started kind of maybe like more eyes are on my things than before. Like this has been a summer of me, like a learning curve because I think I like panic about maybe providing a little too much information about my neighborhood, like where I live, or like anything like that. I also think that there is this very real thing that is building a parasocial relationship with the person where like, I think that like, I obviously portray myself a certain way on the internet. And I'm always just like, that's not fully who I am. Like, that's just like my sense of humor and the things I produce. And I think people get maybe attached to like my internet personality. And I think it's like, that's been a fascinating journey too, where I'm like, oh man, like I'm not always on, like I'm not always just like a character. And so I think that's been a kind of like a struggle internally for me. And I also do think that I just get anxious letting people down, like the people pleaser in me and like the achievement oriented person in me is always anxious that like once I put something out and it does well, like the next thing I'm going to let everyone down. Like that's always, I'm like apologetic almost when I put things out because I'm so nervous that I'm going to like disappoint.
Yeah.
At least these like strangers. And so like, for sure, it's like, it's such a weird experience. I also had one tweet. I'm not very good at Twitter and I also like rarely tweet, but I had one tweet go viral earlier in the summer. And this is before I was like kind of like also having my videos get attention. And I think Twitter is really scary. Like I remember when the tweet went viral, that was like a whole different experience than on other platforms. I don't know about you, but it was like I very quickly muted it and I very quickly decided not to look at it because I like knew that I was only going to feel bad about myself. Yeah. If I saw what was going on. And it got picked up by BuzzFeed and BuzzFeed said that I was on a list that said biggest fails of the week. Oh, for my tweet. And my tweet was like not a fail. I was like, it wasn't a fail.
You're wrong, BuzzFeed.
Like, yeah. And they don't tell you at all that they're going to put you on there. Like I had no idea. And then someone like screenshot it and be like, did you know you're on BuzzFeed? And I was like, I had truly no idea. Like, I didn't know at all because I don't look at BuzzFeed. And it was very, very strange. And I like wasn't good at that point. So I did look at the comments and it didn't make me feel good. I get comments on my like looks based on my profile picture, stuff like that, where I'm like, ugh,
yeah. Twitter is particularly disgusting. It really is scary.
Yeah. It's like a garbage place.
It really is.
Once it like leaves your little bubble that you're in, safe little bubble, and it gets to like the masses, it's just horrifying.
Yeah. In that way, that's why I'm like, I think a lot of me recently in the last year or so has been like, I don't want to go viral. I think that would be like not good for my mental health. I just want to be a faceless writer, a faceless person behind a podcast mic. But like,
absolutely. I mean, my dream is to be a faceless writer. You know, I'm like, I'm doing all this stuff so I can become a faceless writer.
You should start writing by a pen name or something.
That's literally what my mom has been telling me this, like this for the past like year. She's like, just put it under a fake name. And I keep being like, it's too late. Like my face is out there. My name is out there. And it's also like, I have a very unique last name. Yeah. It's just like, it's out there. Yeah. It's too late.
You can't take it back. You have to like completely delete your entire internet presence.
Exactly. And even then I think. And
then like dye your hair, get a nose job.
Yeah. Just like completely change. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's too late. So now I'm just like, okay, I just have to be very cognizant to like draw the lines of like how much I'm going to share about myself. Yeah. Like how much I'm going to post.
Although. I think though it is good in some ways for like career wise, like for example, having a bit of a following has all these downsides from like, you know, all that crazy stuff we just mentioned, but also like could help get a foot in the door for like writing jobs or staff stuff. So it's like a double-edged sword.
I know. I don't actually know if it does, but I'm hoping it does.
I mean, one can hope. At minimum, you can sell those cool lights that put constellations on the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I have had like, you know, what are those the little toys, like the plushie toy? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, there's just like these little like, they look like stuffed animals. I forgot what they're called, but I remember them reaching out to me and they're like, "Do you want to
hawk our shit?
Do you want to?" Yeah, and I'm like, first of all, the last thing I want to do is be an influencer. Yeah. But if you're gonna send me a free one, I won't advertise it, but I'll like for sure look at it. Yeah. Touch it. Yeah, but I'm like, if you'll pay me to.
Yeah. I've seen some pretty bleak sponsored posts like that. Especially like more, I think, well, one, I spend way too much time on Twitter, but like on Twitter, someone will tweet something really sad and depressing, and then it's going viral. Then you click it, and then underneath it's like, buy this cool light that'll make your room look like a constellation. Buy this sex toy. Buy this plush, and it's like,
right.
No, it's really.
I know sad. It is very dystopian.
It really
is. The world
is.
that we live in. Like it's just like everything can be monetized now, and so it is like a sad tweet will go viral, and then people will reach out to you and be like, can you put this thing in? And it's like, I'll pay you $50. And then, just like do that. Yeah.
It's weird. It definitely requires a bit more energy as far as like sort of managing your own, like tenets, what you're okay with.
I mean, like, yes, I'm working on boundaries right now. Like today I just felt very overwhelmed by like existing on the internet this morning. And so I was just like, have been off my phone. Like I've been in a different place than my phone just so I like don't look at it. And that's been kind of nice. Like I want more days where I'm just like detaching from. Yeah. I mean, similarly, I am on Twitter all the time on my laptop. Like I'm limiting it on my phone, but I'm not limiting it on my laptop. So I'm like, I'm going to look at Twitter all day. But like, I don't know. I am trying to be better about like kind of distancing myself from my like internet persona or like existence.
It's hard though, because especially in, we're not in full lockdown anymore, but we are still a little bit cut off from like major socialization like we used to. And like, it is like a lifeline to connecting with people. But at the same time, it also is the line to all the craziness and all the shit that can really mess with your head.
Absolutely. The internet's so weird. It's like, it's really, I was thinking about just like why I've developed more anxiety as I've gotten older, which maybe that's natural, but I was just like this week thinking about that. And I realized, I was like, why? I was just so okay being alone in like high school, you know, and college. And then I was like, yeah, because social media was not what it is right now.
No,
there was no way to easily post what you were doing at all times. And now it's like, I could generally know what people are doing or where they're at pretty easily if you're active on social media.
Yeah.
And that to me, and then you have this weird thing where you're like, you have to exist in both worlds, like the real world, but also this like fake world. And it's just so crazy that like children are being raised in this environment, like all this stuff where I'm like, to have this be your reality where you've like had a phone in your face since you're a baby.
Yeah. You just
and then
like,
you like learn to scroll.
iPad when you're like 6 months old.
Yeah. And you have like an Instagram as a child, like an Instagram account showing you growing up as a child. I'm like, what is the impact of this? Because like as an adult, I'm struggling to deal with the impacts of it. And I'm actively doing this to myself. Like I know what I'm doing and I like think about it on my own and like talk to a therapist about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because one, especially for what we do, wanting to be in comedy, wanting to work in entertainment, it does feel like you can't not have a presence.
Yeah.
Like if no one knows what you're working on and what kind of stuff you're making, then how are they ever going to hire you? But two, I find that on a personal level, I don't know if you notice this within yourself, but I've noticed in myself, I start to have like parasocial relationships with people I know in real life. Like, I think that like we are much closer than we are at the moment because I feel like we've been catching up and I know what they're up to, but actually I'm just looking at their Instagram stories. Like, we haven't 100%. Actually caught up and like talked in like months. It's like, oh, that's a real fucking problem.
It's really real.
Yeah.
At the same time, I've met people via the internet that I wouldn't have met otherwise. Like through doing like other comedians and stuff. And then I'm trying to be better about kind of pushing it to real life after the initial meeting. But so it is like a nice thing because like you get to meet other funny people. And there is something about like when they like the thing that you're putting on the internet, there's like some sort of like, I don't know, validation in that too, which is like, oh, other funny people like the funny things that I'm doing. So it is like this, it could be a beginning of a relationship, but you're right. It's not real unless you like bring it to real life.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to just like keep it on the online. And then I'm like, is that real friendship or a relationship or whatever it is? It's so strange. And once again, I can't imagine what it's like to be like a preteen.
Oh God.
Like spending your time on Snapchat or whatever it is and like seeing content like that all the time.
I would not want to be like 12, 13 years old. Anytime in the last 5-10 years. Yeah. Like there were not, I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 14. Yeah. And then even then there weren't apps on cell phones until I was like 20, calling. 21. Yeah. There was like calling and texting and that was like, and then like Snake. Yeah. You can play Snake.
Absolutely. I miss Snake.
Yeah. Me too. But like, I mean, I guess there was like MySpace. But you had to like be home at your computer, and like I had AIM, right? Like instant messaging. But you had to be at home.
Yeah. And you needed like a dial-up connection. You know, I guess maybe we're beyond dial-up then. But like I think about like beginnings of Facebook where you had to like get your phone and like connect it to your computer, your digital camera. Yeah. Sorry, not your phone, your digital camera. And like connect it to your computer and then like download all the photos from it and then re-upload that. It was like a whole journey to get a picture onto the internet. Yeah. And it's not like, and it's never when it's happening because that technology didn't exist. So people just weren't, I don't know, like actively, there was just like less also of an internet persona at that time where like now you can curate. Before there was like less a sense of curating because there was no rules about that.
It was different. Like
it was different.
Do you remember E-Bombs World?
I kind of remember.
It was like Flash cartoons, like the Adobe Flash animations. Yeah. And they were probably the first like internet sketches that I remember seeing before YouTube. I'm dating myself. Yeah. Yeah. But like they were cartoons. So like somebody created them and wrote them and animated them and they were funny. They were sketches, but like, it's not like I was like seeing like a person.
Right.
And then like, I was really obsessed with like, I don't know, Salad Fingers, which was like one of the cartoons, but like, I didn't like develop a weird like sense that Salad Fingers was my friend because he was a cartoon alien. Like,
right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
It is. And I also think that like now almost like connecting with strangers is not looked down upon. I feel like when at that time I was like, I would literally never talk to a stranger on the internet. Like why would I trust anyone? Because it was so anonymous.
You didn't ASL?
I mean, like even then, but I would like never meet them in real life.
Right. Yeah.
And like also my face wasn't on AIM. The other person's face wasn't on AIM. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was just like this like anonymous thing and then it was over.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's attached to your name and your face. I don't know. All of it is just much more like open. Everyone knows everything. And like, you can like slide into someone's DMs and whatever. Like, it feels very strange. I've been like recognized a couple times, like out and about, which is everyone has been very lovely and wonderful and kind to me. But afterwards, I always have this moment of like, they like know my name. They like know my full name. Yeah. Like I just have this like kind of, I don't know, like a moment of reality hits me where I'm like, I don't know who that person is. And I like fully know now that I like came to this restaurant and ate and with my friend here, you know? Yeah. And it's all everyone's been very nice, normal, kind people. And I like, don't think they're ever going to hurt me. But I think it's just like that moment where I was like, that's right. I like just put stuff out on the internet and I don't know who's consuming it.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. I think especially because the internet feels like such a lawless place where like you're producing the content, you're putting it out, it's under your name. Whereas if you were like, I don't know, an actor on a TV show, I feel like there's so much of a barrier between, like you can't just like go to like the settings on Netflix and like DM someone on a Netflix show. But like people can just like go to your profile when they're watching your same content and DM you and then have an immediate link to like try to talk to you if you respond, which is it takes some like step of like buffer out in like the sort of creator to consumer relationship.
Yeah. And it does feel very personal because of it, I think on both ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating. I thought a lot about this recently.
Yeah. I can't even imagine like it's also like a struggle because like it's a creative outlet, right? And it's
exactly
something to do.
I love doing it. Like when I have an idea and I'm excited about it, like I love doing it and I like want to put it out as quickly as possible because I'm proud of it and all that stuff. And it, like obviously everyone generally has been very, very warm and kind and like nice to me. I mean, knock on wood, I haven't been, reposted on like the other side of the internet yet.
I know. Yeah. God.
So it's been really great overall, my experience. And it like feels good. It feels good to like be able to do this stuff without a theater that does a live sketch show every month. But yeah, it is one of those things where it comes with its own host of like psychological things that you have to deal with and like remembering to distance yourself, your value and your own sense of self away from that. I mean, that's with any work. I think any creative work, I think you have to like learn to distance yourself from that work or at least your self-worth. Like I'm more than just this thing I wrote. Like if this doesn't go over well, it's okay. I'm still worthy as a person. And it's like that struggle, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is tough, especially like you said, like it being so personal, like just like being like, I wrote a dud. It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. That's life.
So do you like, now that you're like really pursuing comedy and writing, do you have any like clear direction of like, oh, I'm like leaning into this one area, or are you like kind of dabbling, maybe like, still doing the TikTok and internet like stuff, writing some like longer form things? Where's your head at just at this moment?
I think that's what I'm trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
I will continue to do the online stuff because it is kind of this concrete place right now that I have that feels fun still. And because though it's not really fully sketch comedy. I would like, it's like feels like a nice outlet for sketch comedy that I don't have right now. So I do want to keep that going. But I think in the long term, or I guess by long term, I mean like the next couple of months. So in the next couple of months, I do want to like a little bit, I want to switch my focus to writing longer form things like a pilot I'm proud of. And I think I have sketches that I'm proud of, but I would like to get back into writing sketches, not just TikToks, but like a full blown 4 to 5 page sketch that I'm like, could have people act in. Yeah. With like multiple characters and beats and stuff. And so that's where my focus is. Like some people have been like, do you want to write a movie? I generally as a human, I'm not a huge movie person. Like I like movies, but I love television. Yeah. And so I think my first focus will be television. I also would love to get into like just humor, satire, piece writing. Like, yeah. It's just not my strength. Like I imagine things in dialogue and less in like article or essay format. At the same time, I'd like to challenge myself to try to get better at that. But it's really hard when I imagine everything as like a dialogue between people. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So, yeah. It's definitely a different muscle. Definitely. Yeah. And the way that you communicate like jokes and stuff are like formatted differently. I mean, everything is like different structurally. So I would like to try it, but I know that that's like something I'm weaker in. Yeah. Yeah. So when you say like getting back into writing sketch again, would you like just go back to trying to write for the stage, or would you like write like longer form, like video sketch, or does that... I would do longer form video sketch. I think I just don't foresee a huge live sketch scene for a bit. Yeah. So I think I'm just gonna try to write towards something. So it's like not just like me talking to a camera as a character, but like, you know, a 3-minute thing, 3-4 minute thing that could be put on YouTube. I appreciate that. Or Instagram TV. IGTV, baby. Yeah. I've always been like a long form video sketch person. That's like where I like, it's like was my focus for like a few years. And then I just started to get like a little bit discouraged over like a lot of like the format of one person just talking to the camera and doing the sketch in that way. That was like getting a lot more traction than like, oh, I set up all these different angles and shots. Yeah. But like, I just love that medium of long form video. Same. Sketch. I mean, like, I feel like I really grew up in the era of like YouTube sketches, the beginnings of, you know, like College Humor was blowing up. Funny or Die became a thing. Like that really was like what I wanted to do in my head in my teens, where I was like, if I could just work an online sketch writing, like if I could be a College Humor, I would be the best. Obviously, things didn't work out with all these places. That's fine. Also, like the world changed, comedy changed, the internet changed. But yeah, I agree. I love that. I love like the different angles and like getting like a full produced thing. I think like I kind of try to do that with my TikTok sometimes. Like I'll like fully write out a script, have like actors, and then like have someone like film us with different angles, and then I'll like edit it very thoroughly. And like it's because I love that. I just do it in 1 minute now, with a vertical camera angle. But yeah, I really do love like the longer form video sketches. The Lonely Island was like my dream, you know? Oh God. I loved Derek comedy. Oh, I love Derek comedy and Britannic. Yeah. Yeah. Like weird. I was like obsessed with Britannic in like college, and now I'm like friends with Brian. He did last season of the podcast. I heard I listened to that episode. And I was like, this is weird. Like I've been watching. We've talked about this. I'm like, I've been watching your videos since like I was 18, and he's like, yeah, totally. But he's the same age as me. Like it's it's just no, totally. Like I remember like I went to their live show, and I was like, oh yeah, they're just like comedians. Yeah, but I've been watching them since I was so young on the internet that to me they're like absolute stars. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, ooh. People are just people. I know. It's true. Yeah. Man. Thank you for chatting with me about like creativity and all like the weird, like, yeah. Sorry if we went off a little too long on the internet stuff. No, truly. It's so not at all. It's like so much of what like comedy and
being like a creator right now is. Like, you know, the internet is even before the pandemic, obviously, was just like, it's 80% of what we have to do as creatives.
Absolutely. I really feel like the pandemic has really, really shifted it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if it was, you know, 60% of what we had to do before, now it feels like 80% of what we have to do. Yeah. Like, it really, really feels like everything is shifting there. For good, for worse, for better, I don't know, but it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, you can find this podcast on the internet at, I'm just kidding.
I was like, wow, your voice is beautiful. It's just so good. That was so good.
Thank you. I do VO.
Okay, VO queen. I also have talked to people who have done like the VO, like coaching.
Yeah.
Like voice acting coaching.
I should do that. I have not done that.
And then they tell me like all the work that goes into it, like to show this emotion, do it. I'm like, I can barely show emotion on my face. So like, I don't think I can do it through my voice.
We established that you're not trying to be an actor, Jen.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an actor. Make that very clear.
Yeah. I'll title this episode, Jenny Arimoto, not an actor.
Not an actor, more a writer.
There it is, another one in the books. It was a really great conversation and we had so much fun. Thank you, Jenny, for joining me on the podcast. It was truly my pleasure to speak with you. You can follow Jenny on TikTok and Instagram at Jenny Arimoto if you want to see more of her stuff. As for you, dear listener, we'll see you next week with another episode coming out soon. And please continue to join me for season 2, the season of the swerve. Until next time, I'll talk to you.